Welcome to Showreel, and welcome to our hosts, me, Jacob Paint, and this fella.
I'm Mark Petsky.
Okay, and back to me now. Later on we will have the week's entertainment news, then finally Mark and I will take a look at the recently released film White House Down, and I will give you my thoughts on Pedro Almodovar's latest film. I'm so excited.
But before that, I would like to introduce our guest and host, award-winning actor, singer and writer of 8 original musicals, Mr. John Wikman.
Hello Mark. G'day Jack.
Okay.
Now John, what inspired you to write your first musical?
Food. Food is my favourite subject. I love food, and my first musical was called Fridge, and it was set in a refrigerator, and it had all these flamboyant characters of fruit and veg and milk and cheese and eggs and like Sunny Queen Egg. You know, she was a drag queen, and like eggs get laid, so they were the tarts of the refrigerator. And I had bananas like Sunny Queen and the Ladyfinger Bananas. They performed at a nightclub, and it was a love story between a carton of milk and Peach, and there was this bad fish who got put in the fish can, and he wanted to get the magical ice for the formula for the refrigerator. So it was just fun, and the characters were over the top, colourful, and yeah, it was just a heap of fun.
I imagine there's a few problems with producing a show like that. I mean, what are the biggest challenges you faced with producing a musical?
Well, I guess it's getting all the layers together. In other words, with that show, I was lucky enough to do it with an amateur group. So they could help with the costumes and the set and the lighting, and I really just had to worry about directing it. It was the first show I directed. But if you're starting off and doing your own, then there's a lot to think about. Like, first of all, it's hard enough to find in amateur theatre, to find a guy who can sing and act and dance in Brisbane. There's lots of ladies, but it's very hard to get some guys to do it. Once you get that, it's hard to get a nice, good quality venue. And so once you get that set up, then you're really just starting to rehearse your show, you know, and that's getting all the layers together. So, you know, it's like you start the script, they're learning the songs, and then all of a sudden they just move into directing it. Like, so you're blocking the scenes, and then you're adding in the layer of the music, and then there might be some dancing in some scenes as well. So each layer that you're adding in, things could be a step forward, but there could be a step back. So it's fun to go through that whole process. And then you're adding in, when you're getting onto the stage, there's the lighting and the sound and costumes and just working with the set. It's heaps of fun.
Now, what would you recommend for someone who's looking at writing a musical? What are the things you think would be most important?
Well, I think one of the first rules is, look, there are no rules. Yeah. That's one thing. If you've got a great idea for a musical, because people can write plays, they can write musicals, but I think just adding that extra layer, you have to be able to add in some really good music. Otherwise, just do a play. And the musical, I believe, has to be strong. It has to have that little catch that people can go out of the theatre and they're humming something. It's hard enough to get people to come to live theatre in Brisbane, and you want it to be a fantastic experience so they come back and they bring their friends as well. So it has to be a great experience, has to be a great story, fantastic music, and believe in yourself. And then once you start producing it, it's important to get the best team behind you. You've got to have like a great cast, a great crew, good musicians, and particularly if you're writing the musical for the first time and you're putting it on, there's going to be some changes. There has to be. You can't just write something and go, oh yeah, I know it's going to be exactly right. This is how it's going to work on the night. I think the people who are involved with you have to understand that and be open to change. You might have to cut big chunks of script. You might have to add in an extra song or something like that, you know. And I've been very lucky in the experiences that I've had, that they've been so supportive. Not only that they're open to change, they've contributed to the characterisations, and they're bringing that character to life. They're excited about it as well.
Okay. What are some of the other inspirations you've had for your musicals?
Well, I've written 8. So one of the next one was about nursery rhyme characters, and I just wanted to have a fun show for kids in a pantomime situation. So that was just a mix of all the different nursery rhymes like Jack and Jill and Peter, Peter Pumpkin Eater and stuff. The next one was another kids pantomime called Billy Can, and I wanted to write an Australiana kind of show where you had some good Australian slang in it. So I did an Aussie version of Peter Pan, where this little kid Billy Can takes him out on his billy cart out to the outback and has some fun. And then the next one I wrote was about soap operas, and it was set back in the 80s when you had those big soap operas like Dallas and Dynasty on television, where they had the big foofy hair and the big shoulder pads and the big egos and the big family dramas. And so I wrote this, and the twist was to have all the lyrics and all the dialogue song titles from that era. So that was my twist for that. The next one I wanted to write was about travelling around the world, because I wanted to have an experience of writing different styles of music. So it gave them an opportunity to travel to places like Greece and Italy and India and China and Africa. And it was just great to just have all those styles of music. And then the next one was The Gods, which was set back in ancient Greece and Roman days. And when I read about that, it seemed like there were so many similarities between the gods of Olympus and the gods of Rome. So I thought, well, there could be conflicts there as well. So let's set up a competition as to, the demigods, how they might be able to find these golden apples of Hesperides. And through that journey, we invented football and soccer and hockey and all these other games that they could then play at the Olympics. So that's a bit of fun. And then the last one was this one recently this year was based on the famous Frankenstein story.
Oh, yeah.
So yeah, I've written 8, and I like to just have a mix around as to having some kids light and fluffy stuff that really appeals to mums and dads as well. And then some over-the-top melodramatic stuff like Soundsations, and then go for the real deep and meaningful and heart-wrenching angst stories like Picture of Dorian Gray and Frankenstein.
If you were to adapt one of your movies, one of your films to one of your musicals to movie, which one would you choose?
Definitely The Portrait of Dorian Gray. To me, it has all the ingredients of being a sumptuous, big movie where they could zoom in and focus in on people's faces and with the expressions and the emotion of the show, as well as the big sumptuous sets that you could have too.
Well, up after the break, Mark will be back with the news, and we have a new game to play with John. See you soon.